and on vibes, the icing on our particular jazz cake is Mr. Roan Kearsey-Lawson. A little warm-up number. Thank you to Chris Hare for a lovely introduction there for us. Already. So it's the first number on a warning up. That's the thing with putting a set together. I always like to start with the blues because I think it settles the audience in and the band in. That blues was an original written by myself. Basically, all the tunes I'm going to do tonight will hopefully be originals, apart from the singers, they'll be doing the standards. So if you don't like it, you can all leave before the last set, can't you? He's off. But it's always one of those things when you think, what should we do second? You know, you do blues first. I can never make up my mind what to do second. I usually do a tune, I don't know if anyone's heard of it, a tune called Undecided. Just because of the irony of it. But tonight I'm going to do a different tune because I still couldn't make up my mind whether to play Undecided or not. So the next one we're going to do is called Gates Mate. The first one was called Splendid Blues. Splendid just because I don't think that word's used enough anymore. When I was a kid, I used to remember the Mr. Men, and there was Little Miss Splendid. And that's why I thought, I'll call it Splendid Blues. But the next tune has a little story to it. Do you want the story or do you want me to play? Oh, a story and then play, right, okay, yeah. Now this isn't a plug because the album's not even released yet, so you can't buy it. But this is actually really one of the tunes that was the start of a new album that I've just recorded. And it's called Gates Mate. The term Gates refers to often vibraphone players because of the gate at the front. But the original Gates was Lionel Hampton, and Milt Jackson used to be called it, but Lionel Hampton, going way back when, he basically made the vibraphone famous. His nickname was Gates. And a friend of mine was playing used to live in New York, and he did about 8 sessions with Lionel Hampton. So this tune is dedicated to the friend of mine and to Lionel Hampton, what they got up to together in his apartment in New York. So it's called Gates Mate. Oh, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was Gates, Mate. Yeah, very good one. I do have a joke for you this evening, but it's a bit early for that sort of thing. So I might save it till later. And you do have to be, or understand country things to understand this joke. It's very clean. And do you know what reminded me of it? Was Chris Hare's name, because it's a joke about a rabbit. You see, and I thought, what joke can I tell tonight? And I thought, Chris Hare, rabbit! So it would be about a rabbit. But yeah, so that composition is one of my more recent ones that I've written. And I will waffle on later about these fine musicians here, ladies and gentlemen. A bit later. I think that deserves a round of applause. Yes. This next composition is the first thing I ever wrote. History, which is about, I think about 8-9 years ago, something like that. but it's the first, my attempt at my first composition. I was sitting down playing the piano, playing a bit of Bach, as you do, and I finished playing that. Well, to tell you the truth, he's so boring, this Bach. I mean, between you and me, haven't the Germans and Austrians ruined music? You know, everything's so straight and boring, isn't it? But, did you know Bach's children? Most of the tunes that Bach wrote were for punishment. No, not punishment. That's the wrong word. Most of them were for exercises for his children to learn how to do fingering and scales and poor kids, eh? But anyway, so I was getting very bored playing this bit of Bach, trying to sight read it, not doing very well. And I suddenly started playing something else. I thought I could turn that into a tune. So I decided to write a jazz waltz that was meant to be a Bach tune. And it's got a little Eastern flavour to it. Sometimes it turns into a Spanish flavour, depending on how I feel. So it depends if you want an Eastern intro or Spanish intro. But I'll show you, demonstrate the vibes to you at the beginning of this tune before we get going on the tune, that is. And so because of the Eastern influence, it's called Bach East. Do you know, funny enough, I remember the last gig I did in Norway, I kept talking about this tune called Bach East. And it was like dead in the room, and I think Bach East, and they're just all looking with confused faces. I mean, obviously they can't all speak English, but I should have been speaking Norwegian, really. But anyway, but they're all looking, and I say Bach East, and it was only at the end of the half-time, a chap came up to me, he said, very interesting tune that. He said, why did you decide to do it around canines and dogs, calling it Bach East? And I went, no, Bach. And they didn't realise, but it's not canines, it's not a tune about that, it's about a father who used to make his kids play lots of exercises, and it's got a bit of Eastern influence. It's called Bach East. Thank you. End of the first wait till you get to the joke, it's a long one. could be as long as my talking. Thank you very much, Adrian. See, we've lost one. The plan's working. You can guarantee if you play originals, you can go home early. It's a rabbit. Ah, you wait till you see this rabbit. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, you've been a lovely audience so far. I shouldn't have had that came out loud, didn't it? Sorry, I should have kept that. Yeah, ignore scrap that bit. I'll do that again. You've been a lovely audience. Miserable tune for you now. We haven't had just to cheer you up. Yeah, we're all far too happy tonight. It just won't do. And I haven't told you my joke about the rabbit yet, but that will make you all leave. So I better not say it just yet. And I will talk about each band member as well a bit later. It's all very fun. A very great privilege for me to be playing here with them. It's lovely to have them all. I think who should I do it? No, do you know they're all actors, all divas? These three up here. They've all been in films and acting things. I've only been on Crime Watch. I was going to say I'd only been on the BBC News, but which is true. Well, I've probably been on other things, but I know I've been on the BBC News with Dorian actually. I think Dorian, that was the last time. You didn't know what I was going to say next year. That was the last time that I played with a real piano, with you on a real piano, and me on it. There's so few venues now with a real piano. And you usually have to take along your plastic ivories, as I call them. But the lovely Dorian Ford, he was on a Yamaha grand piano that time. I mean, it's a bit one up on you guys here, but you got a Yamaha baby grand. But no, but it was and that was live on the BBC telly, which he probably didn't even know. And then Crime Watch came round. He wants the royalties. Yeah, look at that. But no, Dorian Ford, do you know he is an actor? Yeah, ooh, he is a thespian. Yes. His mother was, I think, an opera singer of a thespian type, and it all runs in the family. And I don't know how much I'm allowed to describe in detail of one of the most famous films he was on. He had a big part in it. Is that enough I want to say that? Quite all the way through, I could barely believe it when I saw it. But, am I getting too? We were still okay. So he's still looking at me with a smile, so I'm doing all right. It was in that film Mrs. Henderson Presents, and Dorian was he had a big part in it, like I say. You got it that time, didn't you? He was the rehearsal pianist, in the film, and Yes, well, like I say, if you see it, you'll be able to barely believe it as well. But no, he's done other things since a young lad. He was King Richard the something. Is that right? Is it Richard? Yeah, King Richard III. He was a child actor in that BBC drama. He was in Grange Hill, a foreign exchange student. So it wasn't in it for long, so I got rid of him. What else? I think he's done bits in EastEnders, is that right? Yeah, also. He's a very famous actor, you see. Usually he doesn't talk because it costs too much. Whereas me, I'm a nobody, so I can just keep waffling on as much as I like. But no, ladies and gentlemen, that's the lovely Dorian Ford. So, would you like me to finish the set out with a miserable tune? Or do you want me to save that? Or have I got time? Have I got permission to do a miserable tune and then a swinger to finish? Have I got permission for that? Oh God, look at that. He wants his, doesn't he, £half or whatever. So this tune I wrote when I split up with someone after a long-term relationship, so you can see where it's going already. It's actually part of a classical suite, and I've sort of turned it into a not a semi like that, no, I turned it into a jazz tune that works in this sort of group. But it's called Lullaby of Love. So do you want that one more number then? Shall I do that one more number? Shall I? Is that a yes, is it? I won't tell you my joke yet, it'll be all on night, won't we? But you've been a lovely, wonderful audience. Best audience I've had all evening. Boom, boom. And we're going to do this little tune. It's called Hampton Swing. Now, none of that. I had a drummer once. I looked at him and said, "It's Hampton Swing," and he just looked at me. I said, "I've never thought of it that way." But it's after Lionel Hampton, not as the Americans call their Hampton. But there you go, legend. You've been lovely, and this is Hampton Swing.
1, 2, 1, 2, 1.
Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely Jerome Davies on bass. Now come here, smells Adrian. Jerome Davies, Dorian Ford, and Roan Kearsey-Lawson. Let's just like a 20-25 minute break now. It's bound to be, isn't it? Bound to be blues. Now, what about that joke yet? I'll tell you what I haven't said. I haven't mentioned anything about our fine drummer and bassist, and I just worked out a connection. There was a connection earlier that I thought of with myself. It's a bit tenuous though, but my grandfather was a drummer way back when, you know, sort of 40s, 50s and 60s, and he worked with Ted Heath. And before, he was the drummer before Jack Parnell, and he was friends with Jack Parnell and gave Jack the seat when he left, when my granddad left the band. And then Jack Parnell took over, and then he gave the seat to Ronnie Verrill. And Ronnie Verrill was born about 4 miles from where I live, and I heard him play when I was 14 years old in a local concert. And I heard him play, and I turned around to my mum and I said, that's what I want to do in life. Because up till 14 I hadn't learnt music, hadn't done anything, and I said that's what I'd like to play. Oh, geez, is it still going well? It's coming on. And so Ronnie Verrell was Animal from the Muppets, and you know that connection between myself and Ronnie Verrell. And then I found out that Pete took over from Ronnie Verrell in the, which band was it? Yeah, Best of British Jazz. So that connection there. He's also an actor, you know. Yeah, I know, I can't get away from them, come on. He's also an actor. He did, he was on Crack. No, Crack-a-Nori. He did on Dave Channel. He was on that. Yeah, he's done other things we can't remember. I think that was the Crack. And then I just found another connection between our drum and bassist, Selena Jones, the singer. Pete was with Ronnie Scott's last week, but Jerome used to be her musical director. Oh! And also Jerome is an actor. Oh, this gets worse, doesn't it? Oh dear, the theme for the night. It's almost like I planned the musicians, wasn't it? But anyway, Jerome Davies, he did a film. His biggest claim to fame was a film with Bob Hoskins and Helen Mirren. That was it. She was on it, yeah. And it was called Last Orders. Was it Last Orders? Yeah. Didn't that have Michael Caine in it? Not a lot of people know that. Dear. I think it did, didn't it? Yeah, only you and I know that.
Don't ask him he was in it.
But we got some fine actors, musicians in the band, ladies and gentlemen. I may run out of time for my joke, so I might leave.
Too much rabbit.
Too much rabbit. Sounds like Chaz and Dave, doesn't it? Rabbit. Oh. It's just funny. Anyway, no, don't get me on to Chaz and Dave. This album I was talking about has got a New York theme. This is the one that you can't buy. I'm not going to tell you about the ones I've got with me because no one will buy them anyway. So I'll talk about something that I spent a lot of money producing and nobody will buy that one. But it's called New York Connections, my new album. And obviously every tune is a connection to New York in some way. And this tune is called End of the Line, so there's a bit of a train theme going on in the album as well, and it's End of the Line. I always forget to say, every album I do is always my own originals. And I only do that because I'm tight, I don't want to pay the PRS licence.
Brilliant. Keep it to
feeling on a New York train, you see. I'm afraid that the powers that be, it's very nice of you to shout more, but the powers that be want to kick us out soon. So I think there's time for my joke, and that's about it. I think. Okay, now I'll try and be as quick as I can. I'll try and be as quick as I can with the joke. Although if you rush it, it doesn't work. But there was a little village called Covent Garden. See what I did there? So it must be many moons ago, because at one point Covent Garden must have been a little village. And there was a village pub. And one day a rabbit came bouncing along, like he does. It was a giant rabbit, actually. Well, quite big, and it could talk, so it was, quite clever, really. But anyway, the rabbit came bouncing along, and he bounced in the pub, and he's a little bit nervous because he's not been in this pub before. And he looked through the door, and he thought, oh, must be something going on here. There's only a landlord and chap over there and another chap there, just 3 people in the pub. Anyway, so he thinks, well, it should be fine. I'll bounce up to the bar. And he said, barman says, oh, how can I help? And he says, do you think I could have a pint of beer and a cheese and tomato toasty, please? And the landlord said, yes. I said, that should be fine. Here, and he served it out there. And he finished it and off he bounced. The landlord thought, oh, it's a bit odd, but never mind, it's customer, you know. Next night, there was half the village in the pub because the landlord had told them about this rabbit that comes bouncing in. And it was great for business for the landlord, you know. So the rabbit comes in the next night, he looks and he thinks, a little bit nervous, you know, it's a bit busy tonight. He says, oh, maybe it must be happy hour or something. He said, no, I'm hungry, I'm going to go in. So he bounces up to the bar. Up the bar, can I have a pint of bitter, please? And a cheese and tomato toasted. And the barman said, yeah, sure, here we go. He goes bouncing off again. Anyway, this happens night after night. And at the end of the week, the barman, he can't believe it because there's so many people coming to the pub and he's making so much money. And so he decides to get all the TV in. I mean, bearing in mind we're talking, it was thousands of years ago. It was a very clever barman to get the TV and all the media in, but there we are. But the barman, he got so all the TV there, he came in, and then the rabbit comes bouncing up the bar. Oh, could I, he's very nervous by now, the rabbit, but he said, could I have a cheese and tomato toasted and a pint of bitter? And the barman looks at him and says, a bit nervous, he said, well, I'm sorry, but we don't have any of that tonight. And the rabbit goes, well, is there anything else I can have? He said, we can have a cheese and ham toasty. So the rabbit says, well, will I be okay? Will everything be, if I have a cheese and ham? And the barman says, yes, of course. He goes, all right, so hands it in, he gives it, rabbit goes bouncing off. So the next night, there was like international TV and, just plastered everywhere waiting for this rabbit. End of the evening came, no rabbit, didn't show. This went on for the next 2 weeks, all waiting for this rabbit. And in the end, the landlord was just, sort of distraught by it and ridiculed because they didn't believe him. And about a year later, same 3 people in the pub again, this ghostly figure of a white rabbit comes floating in. He comes up to the bar and he says, do you remember me? And the landlord says, yeah, of course I do. You made me so much money that week. Of course I remember you. He said, well, do you remember I had a cheese and tomato toasty? He said, yeah. He said, and then one night you gave me a cheese and ham toasty. He said, yeah. Now wait for it. This is a punchline. I can run. There is an exit. And he said, yes. He said, what happened? He said, well, you said nothing would happen to me. He said, yeah. He said, well, I died. He said, oh, I'm sorry about that. He said, what happened to you? He said, here we go. Ready? Drum roll. No, he's asleep. I told you it was a long drop. And he said, he's heard it before, that's the trouble. Anyway, here it is. He said, well, actually, he said, I died of mixing me toasties. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Peter Taylor.
Jerome Davies on bass. Dorian Ford on piano. And the quite extraordinary Roan Kearsey-Lawson on